First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
In studio right now is the one and only human calculator, Scott Flansburgh. Good morning.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you all.
Happy Maths Day.
Yeah, that was cool. I appreciate you guys celebrating. You know, I was the global ambassador of World Maths Day for several years and got to travel the world and visit all the winning schools and take all the students on, like, Good Morning Australia and all these different shows. And that was a dream come true, you know, because math is the global language. Numbers are. And it was just cool to see that everybody's celebrating it. We just all say it a little bit differently. So.
Yeah. Okay. Are you, you're here in a different capacity. It's basketball today. And, in a nutshell, you have discovered that, much of or a big part of the game of basketball actually was created in Herkimer, of all places.
Yeah, Herkimer was celebrated in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts in 1992 at the 100-year anniversary of basketball, where they celebrated Herkimer and this guy named Lambert Will, who at the time was a teenage volunteer at the YMCA in Herkimer, for his help in innovating the game of basketball. Mm-hmm. And so the foundation I've set up is called the Herkimer 9 Foundation, and our goal is we're doing a few things, but number one is to prove that this book written by Frank J. Baslow called I Grew Up with Basketball is in fact true. If all the facts in that book are true, we don't need to do anything else. It goes across the Springfield narrative. The timelines don't match up. But we have spent almost $50,000 on forensic research specialists to determine whether the validity of the ball, the pictures, the dates, all these things are true. Yeah. And so we're in the middle of that investigation. But so far we have found nothing that goes against what is written in that book. So right now, we truly believe Frank J. Baslow was telling the truth. He witnessed this firsthand. This guy actually started the first team of basketball guys that went and toured around. They were called the Globetrotters. They were out of Herkimer, called the Baslow Globetrotters. This is in 1913.
Wow.
And later in his life, he gave
So they
Harlem,
were the Globetrotters before the Globetrotters?
What? Yes. The Herkimer
and
had a
Baslow,
team.
I'm pretty sure the Herkimer Library is named after Baslow.
Frank J. Baslow Library, yeah. And so he had the Globetrotters, and then he gave permission to the Harlem Group to use that name when he was retiring.
Wow.
But it all started in Herkimer. And so we want to celebrate Frank J. Baslow, but we also have to celebrate the first guy involved in this book, is Henry M. Quackenbush. If you've been to Herkimer, there's this beautiful factory. And this man had 50 patents. He was working at Remington Arms as a teenage apprentice, invented the extension ladder, sold the patent for $500, and then started building his factory in Herkimer, where he continued to develop and invent things, eventually with over 50 patents and the machines to make them, all in this factory in Herkimer called the Quackenbush Factory. So when I read this book and I saw that Mr. Quackenbush not only did all that, he was running Sunday school at the Methodist church next door. Him and his wife started the library. They started the bank. His wife went out and raised $1,500 to start the YMCA, where all this happened.
Right.
Henry M. Quackenbush's son was on the winning team of the first game, and in the picture that's in the book with a basketball on it that has the years 91-92. Meaning 1891-92. So they already had a team going.
Wow.
Naismith's first game wasn't until December of 1891. So how did these kids have a team already going in Herkimer with 91? So that's what we're doing, is validating that picture. If we can prove that picture is true, then that's all we need to do. And so that's what I'm doing. And we want to celebrate Henry M. Quackenbush, because without him and his wife, none of this would have happened at the YMCA.
Yeah.
And so when I came to Herkimer to start this, I looked at the Quackenbush factory and I thought, well, this is where we have to start. This is the most prolific building in the village with the most contributions to the village as far as, money and bringing in business. And so that's where we're at. And I met with the IDA when I first got here in Herkimer County IDA. And when I met with them, they walked the block with me and said, well, this is great. And we got to the Quackenbush and I said, here's the one. This is the one we got to save. And I was told, nope, it's off limits. This is already spoken for. It's being developed. And I said, what do you mean? Are you tearing it down? And they wouldn't respond.
Yeah.
They said it's classified, can't talk about it. And so I found out what was going on. And I don't know why the IDA was involved in housing, but for some reason they were going to convert that into medium income housing. And so I upset the IDA board tremendously, because I presented to them and begged them not to destroy the Quackenbush factory. And so they didn't like me that much, because they had a deal in place. That deal backed out because of finding out about the historical nature of that building. So we've been working with the village since then to get it, including we put up $300,000 to ask them to drop the lawsuit between the IDA and the village of Herkimer that had been going on for 15 years, to just drop it so we could get the Quackenbush and get going before it falls into the ground. So it's a really contentious thing now because the lawsuit, they wouldn't budge, the village wouldn't budge as far as taking the $300,000 and moving on. So we took that off the table. The decision came in, and the IDA ended up winning. They didn't have to pay the water bill. They got the Quackenbush. And the next day, I got a call from the IDA saying, we're going to get you that building. And the village received that same call. So we were all excited. We started raising money. We were ready to go, including the community foundation getting involved because we're building a STEAM learning center there for kids and adults. And so they're really excited about that. So we were so excited bringing the community foundation into the village of Herkimer, which really they haven't connected much. Yeah. And about a month ago, the IDA said they were going to give the village the building, and they showed up at a village board meeting and said so. And then since then, the village has asked for permission to get into that building to do due diligence just to see what they're getting into, because if they take it, they have to protect their citizens. Right. And so they're asking us, Herkimer 9, to come up with a performance bond of $700,000 to protect the village for any remediation that needs to occur in that Quackenbush. And so we were willing to put that up, and we were working on all that. And in the past few weeks since the IDA offered that building to the village, it's gotten really weird. They aren't allowing the village in. And now on Friday at the legislator meeting, the IDA informed the legislator that not only is the village not interested in the Quackenbush, but also the Herkimer 9 is not. And that's so untrue. We are fighting for this thing since the day I got here. And the village, the mayor, has posted socially. They've sent letters to the IDA. And yesterday the IDA had a board meeting, and the mayor was on the agenda. And me and 8 other guys, so 9 of us, showed up with the mayor to support him in this endeavor to get this, worked out. And we all showed up at the parking lot at 7:30. At 7:45, the mayor was informed that the meeting had been canceled because they couldn't get a quorum. And it turned out that the chairman of the board couldn't make it to the meeting due to unforeseen circumstances. And they didn't need they didn't need to vote on anything, so they didn't need all that, but they still decided to cancel the meeting. And it just seemed a little fishy, if you will, because the mayor was.
Do you feel at this point they don't want to? They don't want you to have the building? I thought that was all resolved.
I did too, over a month ago, and the words and the actions aren't adding up, and the village is doing everything. We're spending money on our attorneys to help support this getting done. And just to give you one more example, the mayor yesterday, the mayor has a full-time job and he works in Amsterdam. And these guys know his schedule. And he goes at 3 a.m. to Amsterdam to work. And he had to drive from Amsterdam to Herkimer yesterday for this IDA board meeting and then go back to work. And not until he got in the parking lot did they call to cancel the meeting after he had driven that hour. And so I don't know if that's just a coincidence, but I'm just very concerned. And I'm just going to lay one more thing out there, just clean and simple, is if I have an issue with the IDA, who do you talk to? And so I called the county because the IDA answers to the county. And when I got to the county, I realized that the chairman of the board of the county of Herkimer is the same person as the chairman of the board of the IDA. And so there's a choke point there. And I think that needs to be cleared up because there's a potential conflict of interest there, first of all. It's very confusing having those two things. And so I'm really concerned about that. I've brought it up to them. And we're not making any movement. So, Bill, that's why I called you guys. I've been on your show many times. I appreciate you guys giving me all this time. Our foundation, Herkimer 9 Foundation, our board members have put in over $300,000 already to help us get this initiative going. But it just doesn't seem like everybody's playing nice. And I know that you guys know more of the history of this. And so
there is a history. There's certainly a history of tension between the village of Herkimer and Herkimer County. There's no doubt about that. Monaski, you looked like you wanted to.
It seems like two things. One, what you were describing about validating these photos and the whole story seems like an A&E or History Channel special about where did basketball originate from, right? Yeah. The other thing is, it would seem to be, aside from the conflict, the potential conflict you mentioned, it would seem to be in the best interest of the IDA to have that historic tie because that would open up revenue opportunities and development opportunities, right?
Around.
And a good point. And we're putting it back on the tax roll. We're going to lease it to the STEM Learning Center, but it's going to be on the tax roll, just like all these buildings, most of them that we're trying to restore on Main Street. There's the L.W. Bill School, the Courthouse, the Masonic Temple, the Palmer House Hotel. We're after all of those. I already paid the $1 for the Courthouse on Main Street. I gave it to the chairman of the board of the county and the administrators. So we're finishing up the Masonic, and so we're working on all that, but the Quackenbush is the piece.
I'm going to talk about this a little more on the other side of the break. So sit tight,
buddy.
and we'll carry you through if you're okay with it.
I would love it. Any questions? I would love.
Yep. Anybody has any questions? 315-736-0186 or comments?